Chicago, Democratic caller.
Yeah. All right. Welcome. Are we on? Are we live?
We are live.
Is this thing on?
Hey, looks like we got 3 viewers so far. Welcome to the very, very first Four Horsemen podcast. Unfortunately, today there's just 3 horsemen, but if you come back this Saturday, there will be 4 horsemen.
This is our pilot episode, so welcome everybody. You might know one of us, 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us, but you'll get to know all of us. That's for dang sure. Yeah. We're coming at you live from New Hampshire. My name is Don Sullivan.
I'm live from Texas. My name is Steve Harbist.
And I'm from South Carolina. But I'm from Connecticut. So.
Where are you right now?
Who, me?
Charleston. Yeah. In Charleston?
Yeah.
See, he doesn't even know where he is, you know.
He's on the moon right now. That's where
I'm on the moon.
Yeah, no.
Those to the moon.
You know, he's been drinking with Kamala Harris before the debate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, she'll be doing plenty of that. Yeah.
Oh,
I can guarantee it.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to be watching this debate live for the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to kind of be get an idea of what we think we might be seeing, talk about what left hooks we're going to see, what right hooks we're going to see. You know?
And
what do you guys think?
There's going to be a lot of interesting things happening with this. You know, I think starting the whole debate when it begins, I think there's going to be a lot of tension. I believe when it comes to Kamala, I think that she's going to go on the script, but the script is not going to last long, and I think Trump's going to win this debate.
Really?
Pretty spot on, but we will see. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion.
Do you guys think there's going to be a second debate?
Do I think there's going to be a second debate?
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't think they're going to run a different second debate, to be honest with you.
I think after how bad she is today, I think it's not going to be a second debate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be either Trump's going to bash her face in, and she's going to be terrible, and then she's going to want another debate, but he's not going to do it because why? Or she's going to do really well, which I doubt. They're probably going to tie. And it's going to be just nothing's going to happen. The media's going to come out and say, oh my God, Trump's a liar. All he did was lie. And then Kamala, oh, joy.
Yeah, I think
what was interesting. What was very interesting, and we're going to see the difference is at the previous debate, which I think it's good to set this up, is that presidential debate that happened between Trump and Biden. There's never been a presidential debate that happened before the conventions. We were talking about this earlier, Steve. That they'd never done debates before the conventions. So Trump kind of dropped the ball a little bit. I feel like he should have understood that they were doing this on purpose, because you saw it the way they came in. I mean, they were so, he said he used to call him fake Tapper, right? Now he's like, now I don't, because he was fair, and they were only doing it because the plan going in was to kind of, they were prepared. All the media right at the end of that debate was like, oh my gosh, Biden's senile all of a sudden, like we didn't know that like 24 hours ago, we weren't hiding it.
I absolutely loved the reactions of everybody. It was like the first time seeing Weekend at Bernie's and being like, wait, he's dead?
It's really, it was very strange having the media kind of explain why they just, we didn't know. Oh, shoot.
No
it
clue.
took the debate for us to know. We didn't know.
So
knew. Either they're stupid or they're liars. So you be the judge.
Another thing I'm thinking is that it's highly possible that they were just on this high of being, wanting to beat Trump. That's really been their thing for the last decade at this point. They just focused on beating Trump, to the point where they've completely forgotten about their own candidates, their own connections, their own everything, really. They were going to drag that man across the finish line if nobody said anything.
So let's do a little update here. So this is our pilot episode for anybody watching. We're just coming in hot, as you should. Like Elon Musk, it's kind of like, you better just kind of start going and figure it out as you go in the manufacturing process. As Steve Jobs said, do it fast, not perfect. So here we are. let's try to figure out. I don't know where we should. We're supposed to be streaming on Facebook. Where are we streaming right now? Is it on YouTube?
Let's take a look here. I am trying to get it operational right now. We are on YouTube. Looks like we are now live on Facebook as well.
Perfect. What's up?
Double check that, Don, just to see that it's on
Let's
there.
see.
Keep in mind, this is our very first stream, so we're gonna be working out some.
I don't see it. Oh, I am live. I can't see it on my own profile, I guess. Okay, can you guys see it on my profile? Are we live?
Let me take a look really quick. I'm gonna jump on there really quick.
Because I'd like to share it. As you can all tell, we didn't test this out at all.
No, this is all new. Right.
Yeah, but by Saturday we're gonna be good and golden.
Yeah, Saturday in 2025.
Saturday.
But this is getting to what?
Oh,
This is how you
it's a
get the
video.
sauce.
Oh,
This is
sorry,
how
the
the
shrooms
sausage
getting a
is
little.
made. The shrooms?
Yeah.
Did you just say the shrooms are hitting? Is that what you just said?
No, on my end, I thought it was a little laggy, the stream, but it's good.
Oh, I thought you said the shrooms are hitting. There he is, fake Tapper,
Yeah.
Jake Tapper.
Yeah, there we go, Jig Tap. The shrooms. I hope the shrooms are not going in.
It's not a good time.
I need to work tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
What did you get? One of those chocolates?
Oh
No.
my gosh. You only make that mistake once.
I only do edibles.
Let's see if I can show myself live. Because I'd love people to ask stupid
I'm going-
questions.
Yeah, I'm going on Facebook right now to see that too. Let's see.
Are you on my Facebook, Steve? Tyler, can you see me on Facebook? Am I
Yeah,
streaming?
you are. You are. Your stream is live. It is active. When I go on there, it's going to be a little laggy because I'm running.
Okay, yeah, no, don't worry. Let me try to go to my live dashboard. I wonder if there's a. Everything changes so very quickly that we really don't know how all this works because I feel like we were doing something the other day and then they changed everything.
They did.
This is
didn't
called
they?
amateur hour, but that's why we're here a few minutes before the debate. So, Freddie, how many people do we have watching? Can we even tell? Is it 2,
This
3, 4,
shows
5?
4 at this point.
Wow, 4. So
Congratulations.
if you're watching, try to send us a message. Say something.
Give
Oh, I'm
me a
getting
comment. What do you think about this? Yeah.
Yeah, you can be part of this journey just like we are. This brand new journey of streamification.
My wife just sent me a picture of my profile that says I'm live, but I don't see the video. I don't actually see the video of me being live. Let me go into private mode here. I wonder if I could.
And for anyone watching, the content's going to be a bunch of stuff. This is just now like a common theme. We're not going to talk about politics every day, so it's going to be a bunch of topics.
Well, as you guys saw with that preview video, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. Right now, I actually have our YouTube video up. It is so crystal clear, super good stream, nice and smooth. I'm not going to bring the volume in because that's going to come in on the other end as well. But again, looks like
we are watching on the Facebook. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So right now we have on YouTube, we have 4 viewers on YouTube and 2 on Don's page right now.
So why can I not see it on the Facebook?
Probably because you're streaming. Might want to just focus on that. I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, it's very strange. Facebook is the worst, isn't it?
Oh, okay,
All right.
Cool. So I see our chat here. Hello, chat.
We have a chat on YouTube?
Yes,
YouTube
I do
chat.
see it. So
Right.
let's see here. Damien's yelling at us for being late. He's gonna KMS now.
A wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Funny enough, he said, "You're a wizard," and
You're a wizard, Harry. Yep, there you go. See, wizard.
Crash course. Good luck, guys. Who is Broom Striker 100? Thank you for the good luck. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So if I was to go It says I'm streaming live. Oh, I am. Okay, hold on a second. View post. Wait a minute. I think there's a progress.
Progress is good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can we all share this? So let's go ahead and share it out on Facebook. Share, if you're on Facebook, share the Facebook post because Facebook doesn't want you to go to other places. Let's just share this out here.
Yes, Facebook hates everything, to be honest with you. Mark Zuckerberg, the robot.
Yes, 20 July live from
Well, here's
all
the
over the
bad
country.
news. Hey, this is really clean, man. I'm looking at even the Facebook video.
Yeah, it's great.
Fantastical. Oh, it's Damien's mom. Hi, Damien's mom. Facebook does have monkeypox. Hi, Isaiah Miller.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you
going to
for
share
joining
this
us.
out. I'm going to share this out. So this is kind of our pregame
is this
here.
infamous I'm speaking? Hold on, I'm going to bring the volume in.
Not
Oh.
true. That
Is he
tax
only
bill-
cutting, is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting
I'm
me finish.
speaking.
we
Come on,
can
do
have
it.
a conversation.
Speaking.
Okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that.
Professor Azari, with a smile on her face, she said, I'm speaking to the vice president. And it was noted in Semaphor's reporting today that she said, I'm speaking 6 times in 90 minutes during that debate. Was it effective?
I mean, people are still talking about it. And certainly, I think, you know, when we have these debates, not dissimilar to what we just saw with the other candidate, it's not.
Excuse me,
the things that they
Julia.
say,
I'm
and particularly these
speaking.
confrontational styles.
Excuse me.
Not going to work
Excuse
for
me.
everybody. So this is not a style that's intended necessarily to win over skeptics, but it was such an interesting moment because every professional woman who's been in
Don,
a
it should have
professional
balanced
meeting
out
kind
now.
of knows that
Right.
feeling of being interrupted.
It was
she
because I was
just
doing that
leaned
test
into
on
it.
there.
She just owned it.
Can we just
And-
turn her down for a second? So
Just
if we
something
remember that vice
I think-
presidential debate, what do you guys remember the most about that debate?
I'm speaking.
No. There was one thing that was very, very particular that came out of that debate.
Oof.
The fly.
The fly.
Don't you remember the fly that landed on Mike Pence's head for like
Oh my
20
God.
minutes?
You know, I was so focused on Kamala, I forgot about Mike Pence's
Right.
fly.
And what's so interesting is now we're saying, oh, she was very rude, just constantly. But if you remember that debate, he was actually kicking her butt. Like it was really just, it was really
Electric
crazy.
Pence. Electric
was-
fence Mike Pence.
Yeah.
He was doing it, zapping her up.
He really was. He was really, she was terrible. I mean, and I really would love if you can pull up the clip, you know, from Tulsi Gabbard, you know, ripping Kamala apart,
Let's
you know,
do
during
it.
that
Let me
primary
see.
debate.
Let me see.
But what was
I'm-
most interesting, he was
Nice.
really crushing her. But then the fly came on, and I don't know about you guys, but I remember, I mean, was it Alex Jones like 20 years ago being like, look at the little CIA drone fly things? I've never seen a house fly land on something for that long. I'm just going to throw out that's my hot take. I don't think it was a real fly. I think it was actually genius because what was the narrative after that debate? The fly landing on shit. He's a piece of bullshit. It was literally perfect distraction because everybody stopped thinking about what he was saying and all they were looking at was that fly. So I want to watch it. I do want to see a clip of the fly.
Oh, I'm bringing it up right about now.
Because that was really crazy and it was there for so long. And I'm sorry, I mean, you see a fly and it's just sitting there. It was very
He was
strange.
just
But
sitting
again,
there the whole time. Yeah.
you go back to Alex Jones, like he literally said there was a whole, you can Google it. I mean, literally, they have these little drones that are like fake flies. And we're in 2024. I mean, of course they have
is a
that
great
kind of-
insult
Here it is.
This is great.
to the men and women
There
who
it is.
serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know
just-
who puts on the uniform
And it
of
just
law
sat
enforcement
there
every day.
the whole time. And that
President Trump and
doesn't
I
happen.
stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our
Amazing.
African American
Thank you,
neighbors
Vice
and all
President.
of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice President.
always stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done
Vice
from day
President Pence,
one, and
thank
that is
you. Your time
improve
is
the
up.
lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice
Record
President Pence.
unemployment.
Even the lady was like, all right, Pence, there's a fly. That's enough.
I feel like if I was a staffer, I would have risked my career and I would have run out and pulled some shenanigans. Because if you really fucking boop, there's my first X of the night.
No.
Leap
If
out.
you really cared about your candidates, you know something's going on because they're gonna pull out all the dirty tricks. You know, you would have done something like, I'm having a heart attack or something. In a fake faint to distract and, you know, steal the attention away. Because what was going on, that ruined the whole thing. That was all the conversation was about. And it happened, I want to say, like a third or halfway through, when it was pretty clear, like he was pretty much wrecking her because she has no policies. When she's asked about, when she's asked about a policy to explain herself, it's kind of like you're in like middle school and you didn't read the book. And the teacher calls you up to like give a report on the book. And it was like, well,
who was it? Who was it? They said that she speaks in riddles. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
It's literally, that's how she speaks. Hold on here. I'm going to pull up some Kamala-isms.
Oh my God. Kamalisms.
Let's see.
I know Trump said it a couple times. Like he was saying stuff like wheels on the bus go round or something like that. And he was just
Wheels
saying
are on the bus because buses have wheels. Oh, here we go. Let's see here. Here, somebody's writing here. It says, here's my favorite philosophical, some giant French word, because it sounds as though she's shouting her stream of consciousness into a void. From our babbler in chief, the governor and I, we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time.
Yeah,
right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. It sounds great, but it's nothing.
It's prose. It's just professional prose. And I have to give her credit. I mean, really, she's made it to the top by being the bottom.
Yeah.
Started from the bottom.
It's literally.
Now we're here. The thing is,
Did you see Mark Cuban's post on X where he asked, who would your kids rather grow up? You would rather your kids grow up to be like Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? And everyone was like, I don't really want my daughters to get a job. And everyone voted for, it was kind of, he didn't expect the reactions that he got.
Well, he questioned it, saying that there's something wrong with the poll. He's like, oh, there's something wrong with this. I don't think this is accurate. But clearly,
he's an election denier.
He's an election denier now. This is not questioning the election. Yeah. Huh?
All right, let's go on C-SPAN. So we looked at the clip with the fly, but we should go back to that Kamala Harris with the Tulsi Gabbard, because that's really the pinnacle of Kamala.
25 minutes till it starts. So, yep.
All right. Oh, Tulsi is amazing.
I love her. I was a Tulsi fan. I'm so happy she went independent. And then, I mean, the fact that she's in the the RFK, I love the Make America Healthy Again. I mean, I was a hippie liberal for so long. I mean, I'm all about the health consciousness, all the food stuff. And that was really where I came from. I was a very independent. I never Republican, anything like that until this. It's just, Trump just seems...
Dude, in my teen
years,
years,
it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle for change, I guess. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird.
In my earlier years, I was a little punk rocker, like I was all about anarchy and all. I mean, that's whatever. You're 14, but I was never someone that would consider myself to be conservative. You know, and the funny thing is that now the left has gone so far left, it almost doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. You're considered far right. It's insane.
Right. Well, what's that meme that I think Musk posted, right? Where you're standing there and you didn't do
push you
anything,
over.
but the left went over, and they're like, why are you? I didn't change at all. I mean, even Bill Maher, you know, has.
I love Bill Maher.
Yeah, same, because he owns it. You know, it talks about abortion. He's like, it's murdering babies. I'm okay with it, but it's murdering babies.
Call it
Say
what
for
it is.
what
Exactly.
It is. Like, you know, and I really respect him for that.
used
You
to just-
know. Oh my
Hold on here.
gosh.
I'm gonna get this ad out of the way here. All
It's
right,
just
ready?
crazy.
When you were a young child. Vice President Biden says that your current position on busing, you're opposed to federally mandated busing, that position
best of
is
friends,
the same as
besties.
his position. Is he right?
That is simply false. And let's be very clear about this. When Vice President Biden was in the United States Senate working with segregationists to oppose busing, which was the vehicle by which we would integrate America's public schools, had I been in the United States Senate at that time, I would have been completely on the other side of the aisle. And let's be clear about this. Had those segregationists their way, I would not be a member of the United States Senate. Cory Booker would not be a member of the United States Senate. And Barack Obama would not have been in a position to nominate him to the title he now holds. And so on that issue, we could not be more apart, which is that the vice president has still failed to acknowledge that it was wrong to take the position that he took at that time. Now, I would like to also talk about this conversation about Eric Garner because I too met with his
and
mother.
that was just 4 years ago.
Hold on here. Yeah, he has aged very.
Have you noticed that in these old clips, just how different he looks? It just
listen, once you get to those 80s, bro, it's just.
Well, you saw Obama's hair, right? When he joined, he was just like. I mean, Trump's like the only president that like didn't age in office.
From the stress or something.
Well, Trump's been under stress his whole life.
Right. He's the only one that's actually dealt with real shit. That's the second time in the swear jar.
Real things.
I'm screwed.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
And I'm the only one with kids.
I don't think that we have 0 viewers on Facebook thanks to your swearing.
Oh, have we already gotten shut down, you think?
It's possible. I don't know. Check your channel there. Let's get back to this regular. Let's get back to this regular programming. All right.
And one of the things that we've got to be clear about is that this president of the United States, Donald Trump, while he has been in office, has quietly been allowing the United States Department of Justice to shut down consent decrees, to stop pattern and practice investigations. On that case, we also know that the Civil Rights Division, this is important, the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice said charges should have been filed, but this United States Department of Justice usurped, and I believe it is because that president did not want those charges to go forward, and they overrode a decision by the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice. Under my administration, the Civil Rights Division will reign, and there will be independent investigations.
Vice President Biden, I want to give you a chance to respond to what Senator Harris just said.
When Senator Harris was the Attorney General for 8 years in the state of California, there were 2 of the most segregated school districts in the country, in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. And she did not, I didn't see a single solitary time she brought a case against them to desegregate them. Secondly, she also was in a situation where she had a police department when she was there that in fact was abusing people's rights. And the fact was that she in fact was told by her own people, that her own staff, that she should do something about and
just a heads up, Damien's telling me here in the chat, after 10 minutes, YouTube doesn't care. He also says ban seed oils and Vermin Supreme 2024. Fuck it, give him a shot. Why not? Why not?
Oh, that's swear jar for you. That's one for you, Steve.
It's been 10 minutes, according to Damien. After 10 minutes, YouTube doesn't care, but we should still keep it a little.
Although we are watching the debate, you know, this debate, this political porn, this is technically a family show.
This is technically a family show, yes. But without seed oils, how am I going to oil myself up?
Coconut oil, baby.
Coconut oil.
Look at that coconut.
technically is a seed. Technically. All right, back to our regular programming.
Disclose to defense attorneys like me that you, in fact, have been, the police officer did something that did not give you information that would exculpate your client. She didn't do that. She never did it. And so what happened? Along came a federal judge and said, enough, and he freed 1,000 of these people. If you doubt me, Google 1,000 prisoners freed, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. And Senator Harris, your response?
That is simply not true. And as Attorney General of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, I am proud of the work we did, work that has received national recognition for what has been the important work of reforming a criminal justice system and cleaning up the consequences of the bills that you passed when you were in the United States Senate for decades. It was the work of creating one of the first in the nation initiatives around re-entering.
I'm sorry to interrupt. How did someone that hated him so much end up working for him directly?
It's all a show.
It just like I don't understand.
Because she was a black woman. He said it. He literally said, "I'm going to have to hire a woman." So, and there were like 3 options, and she, did enough.
He was told what to do, just like the whole presidency for the past 4 years.
No, I don't know, because you look at the George Bush administration, right? It made sense. Dick Cheney, he was kind of the arms. He was
I don't want to, Dick.
Yeah, what was he? Halliburton, right? So he was a big part of that industrial complex. It made sense. I mean, he worked for basically George H.W. Bush's dad, or sorry, George H.W. Bush's was George W. Bush's dad, who was the CIA director. They're so deep. Obama, then basically they're like, all right, we'll let you be president, but you're going to take Biden basically along with you because he knew how to run the Senate. He was that corrupt. Kamala was useless. I mean, seriously useless. They literally had to can her. They tried to have her do things, and they literally she got caught playing solitaire in her office a whole bunch of times because she literally, it's like they made the show Veep about her. But she was a black woman, and it really sucks because it kind of sucks because you could have had Tulsi Gabbard. You could have had had
so many qualified people,
like actually qualified people, like would have actually kicked ass for the country. But no, we got
100%.
her, and she's controllable. I mean, that's kind of what it is because she'll just go with whatever. She'll say whatever. She'll do whatever.
Do you ever hear sometimes Bernie Sanders, the way he comments on certain things? Like he feels like, they took this election away from me. So, he's fully aware that like stuff happens like this all the time. It's not like a uncommon norm when it comes to this. So
it's a common secret. It's a common secret.
This was the thing. I mean, I remember Ron Paul, I think it was 2008 with this Dennis Kucinich, right? And Dennis Kucinich, I really liked him on the left, but he had no chance. Ron Paul actually kind of had somewhat of an insurgent campaign. And that's why Trump was even able to actually do anything because of the way the Republican Party's set up. The Democratic Party is so centralized. It's like total irony because they call it the Democratic Party, but it's literally the least democratic. I mean, how many votes has Kamala Harris even had
0
to get to the position she's in? She dropped out before the primaries in her own election. She got to the VP. Now she's the presidential nominee with 0 votes. Like, what?
Yeah,
it's really shocking and it's really unfortunate because we could have had some really good options. I mean, honestly, Bernie Sanders is radical, but he at least is honest about it. At least he actually has some sort of.
You got to show a little bit of respect for that. Exactly.
I would have rather
he stays with his principles.
Right. At least he's a principled, honest person. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I would have rathered him than just because I know what I'm getting, and that's, what they say about different media. You look at the Daily Wire or different outlets and they're conservative. Yeah. But I know that, when you go to CNN or ABC, like we're going to see tonight, they pretend to be the unbiased, we're the arbitrality. And it's you're obviously on the left. Just admit it. And it's okay. It's okay if you're the Clinton network or whatever. But
do you guys see a sudden change with the media though? Have you noticed let's go back from the last debate in CNN? You seemed like the format was good. even Trump said, like, hey, I thought this was fair. Do you think ABC is going to follow the same kind of direction when it comes to, so far everything's the same, muted mics, having them speak with each other. Like, it seems like a lot of these media stations are really trying to be more neutral. I don't know. With David Muir, I don't know how he is, but it could be something where.
I think what it is that what's happening is essentially people are being held accountable now, and only in the public court of opinion. So they're starting to learn, with their wallets, that people are not happy with that form of,
going at each other.
Censorship, 100%.
Censorship. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because they're losing viewers. I mean, it's ultimately like the ratings. They're losing viewership.
That's what it is. When it comes to money, it comes to money. So let me go ahead. I'm gonna bring this back on for a little bit. Just give me 1 second here.
Tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it.
Got to bring it a little forward.
Taking credit for all the things that Mike Pence did. And the last thing I'd like to hear is Vice President Harris say, Joe Biden and I have done a lot during this administration, during these almost 4 years. We didn't get everything right, but we did the things that we didn't get right, we're working on. But we should be congratulated, and people should appreciate the things and the good things that we did get done.
Okay, Marilyn.
And that's what I'd like to hear tonight.
All right, Chris in Brunswick, Georgia, Republican. Hey, Chris, just hang with us for a minute. Let's go into the spin room. California Governor Gavin Newsom is talking to reporters.
Not only visited right after October 7th, Israel, but also brought a field hospital into Gaza. I don't know, there's another state that did this. It breaks my heart. What happened on October 7th? We want these hostages home. We want this war to end. So does Kamala Harris. So does Tim Walz. So does the Biden administration. That every hour of every day are trying to get this war to an end. Donald Trump, you got to give me a break. What's his plan? I guess it's another one of these secret plans.
But the genocide has been from Biden's administration.
What would this two-state solution look like?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into the nuances.
Okay, then I'll ask you a different question. What would
you like to see? I kind of feel like he's going to run for 2028. I don't know why.
Well, I think we have a proposal, $650 million
Can you hear me?
For a border wall, 1,500 new.
We lost Don.
4,300.
His network went down. He's coming back in just a second here.
Judges, literally, detailed plan that was put out.
I was saying, I think he might run Newsom.
That President Biden
I agree with you.
Endorsed.
Definitely getting himself ready.
Vice President Harris. Not only did she endorse it, she got a standing ovation at the DNC, embracing it and saying she will promote it and she will sign that bipartisan deal. A deal Donald Trump does not support. He's unserious. He doesn't want a border deal. He wants a border problem. And I say this with an expertise that few have. I have the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere in the state of California. And I've had to put 394 National Guardsmen and women on the border. And it's shameful. It's shameful that he doesn't have the backup border patrol and doesn't support 1,500 new border agents and the
Sounds like he's trying to run right now.
Improve the quality of our border security.
Please vote for me over Kamal.
It's like he's preparing for it, yeah.
100%. Yeah, this is not normal. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, she's fierce. She's tough.
He's not going to run this year.
No.
And I also think she's underestimated in
2028
session, particularly, dare I say, with men. I've been in the rooms. I haven't studied game film. I've been up and close. I've known Kamala Harris a decade before we were both in elected office. And
give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I got to run to the restroom.
At a different
level. Me too.
She's disciplined. She is not going to get off her game. I think it's inconceivable. It's an impossible task for Donald Trump not to get off his game. She will get under his skin. And by the way, her name is Kamala Harris, not Kamala. And when Kamala Harris shows up, I think she's going to show up at the handshake. And I think at that handshake, you're going to see something very different from the outset of this debate. If I'm Donald Trump, I would look out. They've never met. He's about to experience something many of us have experienced and seen in the American people, and world leaders will see. A toughness, a character, integrity, someone who's disciplined. And
Governor there, Gavin Newsom, talking to reporters. You can see he's swarmed by the media in the media filing center at the Philadelphia Convention Hall there in the city. Hundreds of reporters there ahead of tonight's debate. We expect that surrogate supporters for the former president will be there as well. Senator Tom Cotton was talking to reporters before. There's members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. They're supporting their candidates and talking to the media. Chris, in Georgia, Republican. Hey, Chris, thanks for hanging on the line.
Yes, ma'am. In the primaries, isn't that when we decide who is going to be the presidential nominee?
And so your point is tonight, Chris?
Kamala Harris wasn't even on the docket. How can she be a presidential nominee?
Do you think that your candidate, the former president, should talk about that tonight?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Ahead of tonight, there are, of course, new
my
polling
body
going
on.
out every week in this race as we enter the last.
Every time there's a zinger, I'm just gonna do boom right to the camera.
Supposed to stand at the right podium
That's
position
funny.
on the screen.
Like
And
whoever the hell they
studio
are,
audience. So very similar to
TikTok
that first debate back in
AJ,
June
the Costco guys.
between former president and
Chocolate
then the
chunk
Democratic
cookie.
candidate for president. President.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Bro, no.
Tonight's moderators
No.
from
Some
ABC.
viral trend guy.
David Muir, who has joined ABC in 2003. He's the anchor of World News Tonight, co-anchor of 2020, went to Ithaca College, graduated in 1995. His co-moderator is Lindsay Davis, joined ABC in 2007.
I never had a problem with David Muir.
ABC News
I think he's pretty
Live.
in the middle, you know?
2 Emmy Award wins and graduated from the University of Virginia
Do you like David Muir or no?
1999. They will be asking
Probably shouldn't talk over videos.
the questions tonight. What answers do you want to hear from these candidates? Carrie in South Windsor, Connecticut, Republican.
Oh, Connecticut.
Well, first of all, I hope that there is a difference in the tone and civility between the two of them.
Oh,
and
how did
there's
this go
no
back so
ad
far? Hold on here.
Well, we got like only a few minutes till it starts, so
He's never fact checked.
Here, we're gonna restart this here.
yeah. Make sure it's accurate. Yeah, it's good.
And he wants to pardon every single person
All right.
that has attacked
Good to go?
our Capitol.
Sweet.
Susan,
So,
Susan, have you ever gone to the Washington Post fact check, PolitiFact? Have you ever checked out those websites? Because they do.
Absolutely. But I want it real time. I want it
Real
tonight
time.
while he's lying to the American public about gun regulations and being pro-life. You know, pro-life also means protecting our children. Pro-life is having Sandy Hook children that would be graduating right now. And these evangelicals that are so hell-bent on making Donald Trump be the second coming of Christ, for God's sake, they need to look at the marriages he's had. They need to look at the mistresses he's had, the children out of wedlock he's had, and yet they still think of him as the second coming of Christ. I don't know what's wrong with the Republican Party. I used to respect George Bush and Reagan. I voted for Reagan. I voted for McCain. What has happened to the Republican Party that they cannot have a spine to stand up to this man? So what I'm hoping to see tonight is that Donald Trump will not only be bastardized by his own party, but he loses big, and Kamala will win.
Okay, Susan there in
What the heck was
New
that?
Orleans. Now,
Were they from Connecticut?
The path to 270.
I think so.
The Electoral College.
Sounds like it.
It means that these candidates have to
It's a
win
fake
some
Republican.
crucial states. We showed you Georgia being one of them. The New York Times latest poll with Siena College in that state. Take a look at Pennsylvania, where the candidates are tonight for tonight's debate. Here, the vice president again leading by just 1 point. This is a neck and neck. This is a tie in the swing state of Pennsylvania. Carter in Valley City, North Dakota, an independent. Carter, what do you want to hear tonight?
Love to hear from this debate is honestly an attack against logical fallacies. Let's look at Kamala Harris. Let's look for policies, and let's have her take on Donald Trump's ad hominem and honestly, quite frankly, his red herring attacks against Kamala Harris and his own policy to other people's to take off that spotlight. Look at the essence of debate in America and how Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Joe Biden have taken it away. Are the judges, and they deserve to be convinced of arguments and have constructive critiques and criticism to them. And look who stripped that away. The very essence of them, which is honestly disgusting. So I hope that Kamala Harris can get out there and take it head on and be the person who brings back real debate in America.
All right. That's Carter there in North Dakota. Next caller, Tony, comes from Supply, North Carolina, Republican. Tony, before we hear from you, take a look at the New York Times polling out of your state, another battleground state, and it's 48%.
I gotta see if we can get Don back on here. I'm gonna
for
call
the
him really
vice
quick.
president, 47%.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes and 40 seconds, actually.
Actually, a tie as well in North Carolina. Tony, Republican?
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. One of the issues that I have is there is so much personality, and we're Americans, and it really bothers me when you hear as much hatred. It appears to be in people's voices on both sides. I mean, the reason I'm watching the debate this evening, I am a Republican. I do plan to vote for Donald Trump. However, I am watching the debate. I want to hear policy on both sides. I had planned to vote for Jimmy Carter years ago, and when I changed my mind was the night before I voted, when the economic report.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just
fine.
fine.
You're back. Welcome back.
The government, I'm sure, was out to get me.
It was Mike Pence's fly.
So I actually ran to my garage and grabbed a 100-foot Ethernet cable and just ran it to my office because I'm not actually hardwired in here. Now I am. So here we are. So I apologize to everyone. We were having a good conversation before I was so rudely interrupted by technology. This is why it's our pilot episode. So welcome. We do have a decent little viewers here on Facebook, YouTube, and I believe X. Are we on X? Are we starting on X?
We're going to be starting on X.
What happened on X?
X immediately nuked our page when we tried to create one. I don't know why, but
is that still locked? We're still locked on X, right?
You were in charge of that, so I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing with that.
It's actually good because X has been cracking down on bots quite a bit. So actually creating an X account
it's a good
for
thing.
This was actually kind of challenging. I had to do all this crazy tricks. I'm like, yes, I promise I'm a human. Like, I'm almost too stupid for this kind of stuff. But we were able to do it, so we have support, and we'll see what happens with X. We are on Facebook. I believe we're on Facebook. And if you're listening or watching, if you can make a comment and say hello, that'd be really cool. And definitely try to look, hey, Courtney. Courtney, I got Chad. We got a few different people watching, which is really awesome. And we're thinking about you. And we're gonna be doing this a lot. Probably starting on Saturdays, I believe. So we're gonna start doing the thing. And we're not just going to be talking about politics. Actually, you know what, Steve? Play the trailer.
We're going to play the trailer one more time because
we're
looking
just to
at about 46 seconds.
46 seconds till we start
watching the boxing match of a lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
So for anybody just joining us, this trailer is what our show is all about.
So we're just starting. This is our pilot episode. We're kind of testing out the kinks, getting things going. Everyone froze. It's just me talking. What's going on?
No, not frozen.
Are you guys still there?
I'm just showing my boxing gloves. Boom, boom, boom.
Technology.
We're all here.
Technology.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up this volume. It looks like we are about to start the boxing match.
Am I talking into the void?
Let's go.
Am I the only one?
No, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Good.
Don, can you hear us?
My back. We back.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate.
Unstable internet connection.
A new opponent.
Here comes the show.
Separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally, and in the key
this is going to be so fun.
Am I back?
Right here in Pennsylvania.
Yes, you're here.
Have you heard? Okay, I just switched off the Wi-Fi and got the Ethernet. So,
no, you have.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign.
Am I here now?
No, I'm going to go ahead and kick you and then come back in.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face, historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Here we go, Steve.
Good evening. I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away
How's
from
the volume,
taking the
chat?
stage
Can
in this
everybody hear the debate
unprecedented race
okay?
for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis.
Thumbs up if it's good.
The most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the
You went
race
through
on
another
July
dimension.
21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared.
Oh, we have
with
comments
campaigns.
coming through. I didn't
The
even realize
candidates will
this
have
on
2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock.
Okay.
That's what they'll be seeing.
YouTube.
2 minutes for
Yeah.
rebuttals and
I
1
wonder
minute for
if,
follow-ups,
Facebook would
clarifications, or
stream
responses.
that if-
Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is
I'm
an
very
intimate
excited to
setting
get
for
our
2
four
candidates
horsemen on.
who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose
Maybe
to
the
deliver
4
the
horsemen
final
could be
closing
you.
statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
They're going to shake hands or what?
Kamala Harris.
Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Welcome to you both. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
have fun.
It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
Did you just say have fun?
Started. I want
Yes.
to begin tonight with the issue that voters
Oh, look
repeatedly
at that
say
face.
is their number one issue.
She's
is
nervous.
the
She
looks
economy
stressed.
and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris,
She
you and
looks ready to
President
rock.
Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle class kid. And I am
So-
actually
I
the
didn't
only
read the
person
homework.
on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I
You lost
believe
weight.
in the ambition, the
Yeah, Trump is-
aspirations,
look at
the
his face.
dreams
He's
of
like-
the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing
She's
is too
nervous.
expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Ooh, this is
First
gonna
of
be good.
all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump, will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
Yep, preach.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane, almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going
It's
to
in D.C. where they found something, but it's rare, very rare. But it's not legal.
Let's understand
but it's
how we got here.
Not legal.
Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked
unless
with
it's a
women
COVID shot
around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, If Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body,
It's wild they're
should
talking
not
about
be made
this.
by the government.
Thank you.
We can
Vice
like,
President
but you need to take a
Harris.
shot
she
to go
goes
to see a
again. It's a
concert.
lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted
Keep bringing
it to
the
be brought
Project
back into the
2025 up.
states, and the states are voting. And
It's
it may
not
take
real.
a little time, but for 52
I don't even know
years,
what it
this
is.
issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House.
Okay.
She's not going to
Change
get
the
the
mic a
vote.
little bit.
She can't get the vote. She won't even
Set it
come
to
close to it. So
automatically
it's
adjust
just
the
talk.
mic
You
volume.
know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated.
Echo
and it ended up
cancellation.
being a total catastrophe.
Did they?
The student loans,
about
and
now?
then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his
Don,
time
you
on the
sound
beach.
good.
But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different
need to
way.
let
And he
it
went out, got
automatically
rejected
go.
again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd
not
never
a
be able to
thing.
get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through.
How many minutes have we
is
been talking about
unconscionable.
something that's
And
not
the
even a
people of
federal
America
problem?
have not. The majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make
way
decisions
too
about
long.
her own body, and that is
This
why
is the key. This is the
in
touchstone
every state where
key
this
issue. This is
has
the
been on
only
the
issue
ballot
that she
in red
has.
and blue states both. The people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris.
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF.
A lot of
And the other
conservatives
thing,
actually upset with Trump
they-
over this
You should ask.
because he has
Will
been.
she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th
Audio
month?
is good.
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question.
you
Would you
could
veto?
do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
them,
month,
this is wild.
and probably after birth.
I thought they were gonna
Just
do
look
mics.
at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now
Absolutely
to
happens.
immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some
That
folks
border
in Congress
bill
and said,
was to
kill
fund
the bill.
Ukraine
And you know why?
like weapons
Because
to Ukraine.
he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand,
Border.
this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
She's
because
goading
people
him.
want to take
She's
their
trying to
country
bait him.
back. Our country is being
think
lost.
that's
We're a
what the plan
failing
is, yeah.
nation. And it happened
Definitely.
3.5 years ago. And what's
the
going
pivot.
on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go
Yep.
into another subject.
Good.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and
Very
look
good.
at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's
60,000
happening in our
population in
country.
Springfield,
And it's a
20,000
shame.
migrants from
As far as
Haiti.
rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like
Diversity
what I
is our
say.
strength.
They want to bring our country back.
this is
They
so
want to
good.
make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, will end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by
this is how Trump
the
does
people
it.
that went there.
Attack everybody.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush,
Not the Border
Mitt
Patrol,
Romney,
not the
and
Fraternal
John
Order of the
McCain,
Police.
including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and
Wow.
Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to
warmonger,
the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former secretary of defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive
What are we talking
another
about right
Trump term.
I have no idea.
And when we listen
It's so
to
off
this
topic
kind
right
of
now.
rhetoric, when the issues
Moderators
that
are
affect the
terrible.
American people are not being addressed,
At least
I
the
think the
CNN
choice
moderators
is
are
clear in
better.
this election.
President
There's
Trump,
no
we'll give you a quick
moderation.
minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people.
Ah,
Not
here
so
we go. This is
graciously. They
great.
did
Yep.
bad
Excellent.
things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with
Bingo.
Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations
Absolutely.
anybody has ever seen. So
100%.
when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy
Then they
like
go write a
Esper,
book.
he was no good. I fired him. So he writes a
This is
book.
good.
Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about
Come
earlier.
in.
So let's get back to the deportation proposal
Yep.
that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the
she's writing the
United
notes.
States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country.
Borders are.
Will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse
President
me,
Harris,
the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump.
Wow, he's coming with numbers.
Well, I think this is so rich.
I bet.
Coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Oh, here we go. Here she's going to try to drop this line. Here we go.
Security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault. And his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone
from
who has
presidential
openly
duties.
Said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States. That he would weaponize
doesn't even
the
understand what the Supreme Court
Department of
said.
Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have
you can tell she's trying to remember the lines she's memorized.
In domestic oil
like there's a
production
tell like the way
in
she's
because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work, to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders.
Yeah, she did
to
it the
increase
old-fashioned
3
way, if you
million
know what I
homes,
mean.
increased by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump,
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very
She literally
horribly,
paid people to
and
get out of
everybody's
jail.
laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing
paid
at
bail.
it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm
She
talking
paid
now.
bail and during bail.
Never
Oh,
mind, please.
oh.
Does that sound familiar? She went out. She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and
The
oil
Keystone
will be
XL
dead.
pipeline.
Fossil fuel
Literally,
will
like,
be dead. We'll
week
go
one,
back
he
to
was in office.
windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan
He
of
rattled
solar.
her.
But they take
100%.
400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, What about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's
Border czar.
by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in.
That was interesting.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican,
judge looked at it.
and said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes.
Good.
He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Oh my God.
What do you think so far, everybody?
Well,
I'm getting comments right now. Let me see what people are saying. It's Trump versus 3 tonight, someone said. Obviously, he's battling everybody. So
he definitely that comment really was funny. That rattled her. He definitely rattled her. It was funny.
I'm speaking.
I'm speaking. Remember that.
I'm speaking. Thank you very much.
You can see it in her face. It was kind of. It's been very. It's been very. Put together.
Putin endorses her. That's accurate, though. They don't have to worry about that. That's good.
It's been put together. I mean, really, Trump's kept it together. The strategy going into this really was going to be Kamala was trying to rattle Trump, right? He's trying to rattle. He's been very poised. She's been Kamala. It's been pretty straightforward.
Jeremy in the chat is saying he cooked her. I agree, Jeremy. But it's time. It's time to flip her over and keep on cooking.
I think my synopsis is first, I think he was kind of getting the bait. It's Trump. He's always going to be Trump. He's going to come out and try to do that first. But now I think he's kind of steadily getting into that phase where he just is talking about the points and understanding what he really needs to say. So I think he's really picking it up. And right now it's just she's nervous. So that's good.
It's interesting.
I definitely think she's nervous.
when they were going on the border crossings, she was trying to go at him on about the border crossings, and he's really one of the interesting during his rallies. He's going to go tier 1 operator on these people. Like he's talked about literally sending tier 1 operators to cartels to take out the cartels and literally have them dismantle the drug trade.
All right, somebody's got some. Somebody's
Yeah,
hot mic.
so I think one of the things in which a lot of people are saying at first they try to do a lot of stuff for debate, but now with everything about foreign policy and the way Trump's doing it, he looks a lot stronger. Is making her look more weak, which I'm surprised, especially with ABC. They're trying to make her look weak on certain scenarios like this. So I don't know what your take is from what you've been kind of analyzing, but it seems like now they're kind of shifting towards some of the things that actually Trump is doing pretty good with, so.
It's crazy. I definitely think he's doing a good job of keeping himself composed and coming back and kind of taking the punches and then throwing punches right back at her. It's absolutely amazing how she's trying to play it as if, she hasn't changed some of her positions. Isn't it crazy? Like, absolutely insane to me that she's switched up just like this and now trying to pretend like she has not.
She's very much tried to put it, she did the January 6th kind of thing.
Usual.
We put that the January 6th, you're a bad person, everyone's evil, Republicans are evil. It's that kind of the feels out of things, trying to stay away from the policy, and he just goes right back into the policy each time.
Right. She's trying to be very defensive to kind of build him up as some kind of cult leader, whereas he just goes back at her and these are your words, these are your ideas, this is what you want to do, these are the things you have done and they have failed, and this is how they failed.
Like with the fracking, I mean, literally, he was just like, here's the numbers. Here's what it was. It's do you want 4 years of what Trump was or what 4 years of what Kamala was? I mean, she's basically her platform was basically the same thing that Biden was. I mean, they just posted them, I think, a couple days ago on her website. And it was copy pasted from the Biden's platform.
100% agreed. 100%.
Where is this tonight?
Philadelphia.
I'm
Philadelphia?
not 100% certain.
Philadelphia.
Oh yeah. Have you guys actually been down there? Have you ever been to this?
No, I have not been down there. No.
Oh, here we go.
Philadelphia. I have not been to Philadelphia in a very long time. Oh, we're back, it looks like.
Vladimir Putin to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect Your president. Okay. They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left,
This is good.
unfortunately left because our country has gone to
He
hell.
has to
But
keep
after
his
I left,
tone.
when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. He's our president, but we have
Where's
a
our president?
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify,
Eating ice cream
question,
like I am.
do you believe it's
Ice
in
cream
the
on the
U.S.
beach,
best
yep.
interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Vladimir Putin.
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and Ukrainians to fight for their independence.
Putin didn't make a move on.
Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. and the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator.
She would
They
be
sent
such a
her
bad
in to
president.
negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies.
I've been
coming
to
from this
Europe.
fella. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The president of the United States have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO.
Good.
I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war.
In Ukraine now.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are.
Isn't it crazy?
Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. but I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm
I
asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was
race. Oh my goodness.
Land, he owned land.
She's mumbling. Land.
And he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution.
She's definitely rambling now.
This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States.
You can tell she had these questions ahead of
And
time.
I think the American people
100%
want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands that I do. I travel our country.
You don't say this off the cuff.
We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted.
Joe Biden super predators.
And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. but they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that. I want to just respond
I feel like
briefly.
you should have just let that go.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
Oh, here's the candor
And what I
special.
do offer is
Hold
a
on.
new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans.
We're going to talk
I have
about
a
plans.
plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life
Really
to help
bad
you
economics, by the
in
way.
that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond.
President
because
Trump,
no,
President
the former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
gonna
just need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what
Oh,
he
yes.
President
said
Trump,
multiple
this is
times.
now
yes,
your third
big
time
ball.
running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also
she
known
wanted to
as
respond, I guess
Obamacare.
not.
You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President
should've said
Harris, in
something about RFK.
2017,
Should've
you
had something
supported
for that.
Bernie Sanders'
Definitely did
proposal to
not.
do away with private
That was a
insurance and
trap.
create a government-run healthcare
was a
system.
trap.
2
That was
years
a
later,
weird
you
question.
proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private
She's
healthcare
prepared because
options.
they
But
prepared her with
what
the
we need
question.
to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous
Yeah, I feel
point
like it's just a
that
trap.
the former president
Yep,
has
this
made.
is a trap
I've
right
made
here.
very
This is
clear
going to
my
be
position on
clipped.
fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns
Bullshit.
away. Tim
Oh,
Walz and
okay.
I are
She's going to
both gun
pivot over
owners.
to
We're not
here.
taking
Okay, this
anybody's
is
guns
really
away. So
stupid.
stop with the
Good,
continuous
do
lying
this.
about
Yes.
this stuff.
Please dig this hole.
As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. He never did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Past his
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
made
of.
a mistake. Number one,
Why don't they let
John
him
McCain
speak?
fought
Come on.
Obamacare for 10 years, but it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you
Do
say
you
that
think he's
we
getting
have
less
to have
talking
clean
time
air and
than
clean
Kamala,
water.
or no?
Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential
honest with
threat.
you.
The question to you both tonight is, what
Seems
would
like
you
it's
do
actually been
to
pretty-
fight climate
pretty
change?
straight.
And Vice President Harris, we'll start
Although
with
she
you. 1
definitely, the
minute from
trick is that
each.
she definitely had the questions ahead of time. You can tell.
Climate change is a hoax.
100%.
And what we know is that it is
It's like she
very
knows the
real.
answers
You
already,
ask
just a
anyone
question.
who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather
Trump,
occurrences,
did
who
like a
now is
test
either
before
being
she-
denied home insurance or it's being
before
jacked
Trump
up.
came.
You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over
To the right when she's
800,000 new
remembering stuff.
manufacturing
You
jobs
can
while
to
I have
tell
been vice president.
when people do.
We
Down
have
to the right, she's
invested in
remembering
clean energy to the
her
point
lines.
that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes
Someone said there's a
growing
mic.
what we can
Do
do
you see a
around
mic on her?
American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
No, she has nothing to do as the vice president. So for the last 4
Let me
weeks,
just
she's
tell
just
you, they lost
practicing the lines.
10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
So, like, you know, one comment I saw was someone said the moderators didn't fact check Kamala on Project 2025. The moderators didn't fact check Kamala on IVF. They just fact checked Trump for the fourth time. So, but we all know it's basically.
For sure, they were only fact check. I will say, I mean, they weren't outwardly hostile, as kind of like, you know, we've seen in the past, which is good because, you know, they were, you know, not as outwardly hostile, but you can tell the questions were, you could see that she kind of knew exactly where they were going. And yeah, you're right. They fact checked him a lot. I mean, it seemed definitely in the first half, I feel like Trump was really getting her rattled, kind of almost like she was a little uncomfortable. I almost feel like the second half, he was like getting a little frustrated, almost just kind of, you know, some of the questions that were coming out, like the healthcare question was really, even the abortion question. They're asking questions that are like, it's kind of like it's a hypothetical. Like, it's not things that aren't really going to happen. You know, you're not going to have these situations.
When it comes to abortion, he's been very clear. He said that he wants to leave it to the states.
And that's a really great solution because it's a very divisive issue, and it is the divisive issue.
That is how a republic works.
That's how it should work.
Right. 100%. So where do you guys think this is going to go next?
Well, it's closing statements now, so that's it. I mean, I think that's it. I think what you're going to do is you're going to get the clips. The media is going to show that last clip of Donald Trump with the medical question, and they're going to put that Donald Trump rattled. Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about, and you know they're going to try to push that. Really, but you know it's already baked into the cake at this point. It's really the abortion thing is really where they're trying to lean on things. And you know she tried to push the January 6th. Nobody really cares about that.
It's been 4 years. No one cares. It's a non-issue.
Yeah, she tried to push the, you know, the vibes, you know, we need to turn the page and this and that. I mean, maybe, I mean, she's trying to, but it's almost hard. She's just, the way she speaks, she's not a very, like, affable person, like, charismatic, right? She's not something.
Not likable.
Right. You like trying to listen to her. And you listen to Obama and he makes me want to vote for him. Like I don't even care what he's telling me. Like he's like the oration. He's such a polished, trained, orator. You know, doesn't matter what he's saying.
I think my conclusion for all this, and you guys both agree with me, I think they knew ahead of time what the plan was. That's why ABC was primarily the only debate they would agree on. They wouldn't go with Fox. They wouldn't go with even NBC because this was already set up for like. They're saying, "Oh, Kamala's been practicing a week." You know, I think they knew about this for a long time, and that's just my perspective on all this. But
she has no job. She has nothing to do. She's literally been practicing, and obviously, I mean, we know Donna Brazile, leaked the questions to Hillary Clinton. I guess this is how the game is played. They give them the questions. Like, obviously, if you think Trump is a threat to the republic, you're going to leak the questions. It's just that's obviously what happened. And Trump did not get the questions, so you have to evaluate the debate from that context. It's very obvious that was the case. So when you're starting to evaluate it, you have to go from there. She knew the questions. She was able to have canned responses, very measured, focused group, practiced for weeks, and he was off the cuff as usual. And if you consider kind of like who you want in a leader, do you want someone that needs 4 weeks to plan for a debate, or someone that can think on their feet at 3 a.m.?
Right, exactly. You're going to want someone that's going to be able to handle things as they come at them when situations are changing, because that's just how our world is. Ever changing situations. I mean, look at the war in Ukraine right now. You had so many different changes that are constantly happening. I don't think somebody like Kamala will be able to handle an ever changing war front. I couldn't even imagine, because they're going to go ahead if she does win, and they're going to ramp up this war over there.
I mean, she started talking about, Russia and stuff like that. And it was very interesting because I don't even know how they try to make that a point. Like Trump was bad on Russia. Literally every president in our lifetime, Russia's done since the Cold. I mean, I was born, 1988, okay, end of the Cold War. And then what happened? Russia, and, there was the whole, bombing of, Georgia, Russia to Georgia, and, Russia's invaded.
We're back.
We're back.
Closing remarks.
Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
Unless you don't want to get a COVID shot.
I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay?
Are you paying?
And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine, we're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
And that's that, ladies and gentlemen.
And that concludes.
I feel like first half Trump, second half maybe Kamala, kind of ended in a tie. I kind of give it. I give it that. I mean, really,
the old tug of war.
I don't think it's going to sway people a lot. What do you think? No.
I mean, they're going to clip it. It's already all baked into the cake. There were really no moments that were surprising. I mean, maybe people that had some hope in Kamala, they were really like kind of watching her like, okay, maybe I'll give her a chance. She's just a word salad, you know. She's just a word salad. Now, Trump, you know, he's Trump. You know, I wish maybe he was turn the aggression down just a little bit in the end, the anger, but he's just pissed, and I don't blame him. I mean, it's been like you put up everything. He's the only president to lose money being the president. You know, literally, he's the only president to like go through. It's, you know, he was definitely getting frustrated at it, but you have to. It was a way to, you know, what the handicap is. If they were both went in there and they both didn't know the questions, she would have gotten completely smoked. I mean, she had to be very, very practiced. That's why they haven't had her do anything. She's had no press conferences. She's had one interview where she spoke for 16 minutes, and she had her somebody said her emotional support animal, Tim Waltz. Tampon Tim. you know, and it's just like she literally had him there, and like they have to keep her. That it's kind of a good strategy. It worked for Biden. I mean, you got to give him some credit. It's a good strategy.
It's a good strategy.
Keep him in the basement.
Is there music going on? Do you hear music? Turn that down a little bit. Yeah,
there is. Is it loud?
Just a little. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Some of the stuff she said. I mean, it's interesting. She dropped her policies like just the other day. It's like, oh, we're gonna do a $50,000 small business, tax, a tax rebate or whatever. Like you can write it off your taxes. If you're a small business, you're probably not declaring a lot of that tax anyway, especially in the beginning. Small businesses take a long time to even like make money, and most
correct. Usually
time,
operating at a complete loss for years and
right.
years.
And if you're a smart business owner, you're always operating at a loss, basically. Like you take your money. That's why this whole taxing profits on corporations is never going to work, because smart business owners, what you do is you take that profit and you invest it in a new business. And you invest in a new business and you write everything off, and then you pay for your car and your cell phones and all your stuff. Like Elon Musk doesn't own anything. All is through the companies. So it's all a tax write-off. Like this is literally, if you read like Robert Kiyosaki's, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's literally in that. Like smart people literally build a company. You just have a company. I've done it. A lot of people done it. You don't take a salary. Yeah, you literally have your.
You don't take a salary.
I mean,
you don't want to make money.
No, I'm a real estate agent. So my car is my business. My phone is my business. You sign an escort. I mean, it's
you don't want to have ownership. You want to have control over things. That's all.
Right. Exactly right. So the thought of she doesn't even, you can tell when she's talking about the $50,000 like grant to the small businesses. It's not a grant. It's not money. It's a tax. She has no idea what she's talking about. She's obviously never run a business
bad
in her
economics.
Life. It's bad
it's
economics,
horrible.
right?
It's bad economics. It's not. First of all, it doesn't really benefit anybody.
It's fake.
It's fake. It's completely fake. It sounds good, but that's about it.
Right. I mean, there was a tax. There was one thing she said, which I guess she's becoming a little bit of a conservative, because she was like, "Oh, we should have more tax savings for people that have children." Good, cool. That's what I think. Turkey, right? I think Hungary. Is it Hungary or it's Hungary? have a family first policy where the more kids you have, the less taxes you pay. I think if you have, I'm just speaking off the cuff, I think if you have 5 kids, you don't pay taxes. And that's just straight up. Like that's what they're trying to, or up to a certain level. There's some incentives where they're trying to build the family. So hey, maybe she's kind of getting on board. She's like, kill the babies, but also if you have babies, we'll save you money.
If you decide not to kill them.
If you decide not to kill them, you don't have to pay taxes, I guess, which is good. But, the insulin thing drives me nuts because that was literally Trump's policy. Trump was literally the one to do that, and it didn't take effect until the Biden administration.
There was one clip, actually. There was one clip I'm surprised, which someone commented saying that Kamala stated January 6th was worse than 9/11 on the eve of 9/11. That's kind of dark.
No. She said since the Civil War, there was no other bigger threat to democracy since the Civil War than January 6th.
That's
like
not 9/11, not World War II.
World War II. Open a book. Like what?
World War I.
Like
Vietnam is above.
What? Like January 6th, they literally resumed proceedings like 6 hours later and continued to.
Not even. It was like almost immediately. They were like, yeah, no. It's just insane.
Let's see. Is there anything going on? Let's see. I'm kind of curious because after the after the Biden-Trump debate, all the pundits were ready to go. Biden's out. I'm curious what they're saying.
Yeah,
Can we try to pull up?
They're all gonna say that she won big and stuff.
I'm trying to see if I can find Van Jones because he's always entertaining. Let's see here.
Yep. All right. CNN headline: Harris baits Trump in contentious debate, and that's you can see him. I mean, he played a little bit, but he was pretty well. It's just the CNN.com. That's the headline on CNN.com. Harris baits Trump in contentious debate. The vice president calls out Trump for attacking her racial identity because the Democrats never talk about race ever. Ooh, it's a big no-no. But I will say, actually, I really want to. This is a link here. This is a great. I want you to play this, Steve. I'm going to send this link to you.
Send it.
I really hope this is the right link because this was great, though.
Oh, here we go.
This was my favorite part. And this is where he definitely had almost a knockout punch in the first round. Scroll down and play it. Yeah, click it. Oh, no, up. Nope, up. Nope, not that one.
This one does.
Oh my gosh. Oh, they don't have a video for it. Wow,
So
they
let's now
literally
welcome the candidates to the stage.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people.
Well, I guess not the one.
No, it's interesting. They actually use that as a clickbait. That you could watch that clip where he says, I'm talking now, but they didn't actually post the video of it. So you go down and the first video you can play is the 2025. God. That is so just
dirty. Wow. Wow. That's interesting.
I really want to find that clip, but yeah, here we go. It's here. You know who posted it first? Valuetainment, PBD, Patrick Bet David. Always to the best. I'm sure they were dying during their cast today. Here, play this short. Play this. No, I got it right here. I just sent it to you.
Hold on 1 second.
No, that's great. VT Valuetainment, they do a great job over there. You got that clip. They were the first on YouTube. Good for them getting that out.
Soda, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please.
Oh,
does that sound familiar? She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Does that sound familiar?
That's
great.
No, that was. I want to actually watch that whole clip because that was. Wait, did they have the actual clip here? No. Okay. That was great. She definitely, you can see she was rattled after that. She didn't like he really, really hit her on that one.
Good. Got right under.
And but then if you noticed, suddenly they went to commercial.
So here's my take on it, because I think we should all share takes. I think what it was it was a collusion where ABC, Kamala Harris, the Democratic administration, they basically want this last pitch effort to Americans to kind of show, hey, this is our option. Go vote for Kamala. This is the way we're gonna spice it up. This is our last ditch effort. And they knew about this ABC debate that would make it nice and clear for the American eyes that, hey, this is Kamala. Now you should go vote for her. And that's kind of how, they're probably emailing each other back and forth, just like the old times when, the email leaks happen with Hillary Clinton. You see that there's clear media ties with a lot of the stuff they plan. So, at the end of the day, I think most people in their mind haven't really made a sense of change. They're going to be set with Trump. They're going to be set with Kamala.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone swaying anyone.
No.
It's just going to come out to the election now, and that's it.
No,
I think
exactly.
everybody's already been.
They had to. Kamala had to do this. No one just had. Here it is. I think the ABC actually got this one right. Let's see. Is it? It's
I think people have already had their votes in for a year.
Do you think Trump should have done this debate?
Yes.
Say that again.
Do you think he should have done this debate?
Yeah.
100%.
He had to. I mean,
she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now.
When you watch it though, for like a good minute afterwards, she was just like,
It's right over here. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, that was funny. Yeah, there's no impact from. Oh, somebody's saying my is much louder. Hold on a second. Let me turn this down. Is my mic too loud? Is that better? Everybody, is that better? Is that less loud? I actually, for some reason, can't hear my mic, so it's a little technical.
I think she will have a.
Well, everybody else's mic should be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, is mine okay now? Is it a little louder? All right.
A little bit. Am I good?
Oh, better.
I think mine's okay.
She may.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. I was going to say, I think she might get a little bump out of this debate, but I think there'll be another honeymoon period before November, and then she'll not make it to the finish line.
I mean, all her only. She's just playing the Biden, and all she has is the media.
Hide.
That's it. She just has to hide. All she has to do is not screw up. Not saying anything stupid. That's all she has to do. That's what Biden did. You just have to hide because Trump's out there and he's baked into the cake. Everyone knows what Trump is. I mean, if you saw some of the polls, like the Times Sierra, New York Times Sierra poll that came out, I think it was, said 60% of people want to hear what her positions are. They don't know, but it's 28% or something like that, a low of Trump. They know, they don't know her. They know Trump. So whatever Trump does, it doesn't matter. But her, they're right now it's kind of a race to define who she is. It's define Kamala, and Trump's trying to do that, and she's she does run the risk of being defined if she doesn't get out ahead of it, and that's difficult for her because you don't want her talking. So
I 100% agree with you on that one. Well, yeah. I gotta say, guys, it has been a wonderful first stream with you.
Yeah,
I think we.
I think this was good. What's the next on the schedule? I mean, what's the next on the calendar politically? Is it? I mean, there's going to be no more debates, right?
Can we play one clip in the chat? Just put on. You got to play this clip of Biden today. Speaking of 9/11 tomorrow with the Eve. Unfortunate.
Oh my God! It is 9/11 tomorrow.
I know, but yeah, watch what Biden said today, and I just couldn't believe he said that.
I spoke to the vice president. She seems calm, cool, and collected. I think she's going to do great. I'm going up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. Then we're going to watch the debate. And then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. I spoke to the vice president. She seems...
He's doing 9/11 tomorrow.
That's not fake. Tomorrow I'm going to do 9/11. Yep.
Honestly, we can like Biden. I like him now. I like Biden. He's just having a good old time. He's just on the beach eating ice cream cones. He's like, I'm retired. I'm done. He's like, I'm fucking out.
Let the whole country burn down. Who gives a shit?
JB out. He's literally just
He has
I
not
mean,
cared at any point. They're like, "All right, you want me to step down? All right, that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm enjoying all these benefits
And-
until I'm gone."
Hey, can we just talk about the DNC? You know, the fact that they made him speak at midnight. The fact that, you know, we've all talked about that, but if anyone watched the DNC, it was just the biggest FU to Biden, the fact that they were running late and he was supposed to be primed, you know, like 10 o'clock, and they made him speak at midnight. And
2
everyone
hours
was
late.
like, "We love Biden, we love Biden," and then just we love Joe.
Where
And
am
then he just bounced to the beach, out. And what's interesting though, I mean, if we kind of just talk about how we even got here, because I mean, and I guess this is kind of a greater context of what our podcast is going to be about. It's not just going to be politics. We're going to kind of dig down on Saturdays. We're going to have kind of a few different topics to talk about. All four of us, there's going to be another person, another horseman here.
His horse hasn't arrived yet.
Yes. So on Saturdays, though, we're all going to get together. We're going to talk about a lot of topics, but this is current. You know, this is what's going on. You know, we'll probably live cast.
Uh-oh. Lost you, Don. That's okay. Well, either way, just so everybody knows, we're going to be actually streaming on Saturday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually it's going to be about 2 hours, whole bunch of different topics. May go over, but on average it'll be about 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So make sure to subscribe. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, for everybody who has joined us. That's Tyler with the boxing gloves.
The debate of the century. Boom.
We're going to go ahead and check out for the night. You guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you for joining us, you wonderful, wonderful people.